This podcast is a part of the More Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Daily Leader Podcast by Pattern Talent, where we interview great leaders and we seek to understand leadership. I'm Brad McDonald.
And I'm Taylor Jessup, and we really hope that you enjoy this episode. What is up? All right, Daily Leader people, all of you guys out there that don't quite yet have the Daily Leader Podcast tattoo, T-shirt, or sketched into your head.
I'm getting mine. I'm getting mine soon.
Yeah,
so.
Justin is coming. Yeah, he's going to have the full sleeve. Our guest today is going to have a full sleeve Daily Leader Podcast tattoo with flames. It's going to be awesome. So if you don't have it, like, subscribe us, all those things. But we are back with another episode. Today's pretty fun for me. Bringing on my friend and boss and mentor who's helped me out in a lot of different ways, Justin Benson. So Brad, do you want to give a quick intro to Justin before we kind of start unpacking his life and trying to see the depths of his soul?
Yeah, also boss feels weird, but yeah, no, it's just like
technical term.
Stick to friends, but yeah, totally.
I like employer. I like that. That sounds, that's just, conveys all the right
chancellor.
We're on Swanson, the workplace associate, for those of you who watch Parks and Recreation.
I made it through one episode of Parks and Rec at your behest and severely regretted having to expose myself to that blonde lady.
That's because you're a terrible person,
Leslie
Brad.
Knope's the best.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
Yeah, she's on Ted Lasso. It's like all that's good in the world.
Yeah. Brad fought me on Ted Lasso for a long time.
I told you about Ted Lasso. Ted Lasso.
No one told me about Ted Lasso.
Fight.
All right. Enough of this. Let's talk Justin Benson. All right, man. So we're stoked to have you on today. Husband to Faith, father of two beautiful kiddos, graduate of ASU. That's Arizona State University for all of you
the Harvard of the West.
The Harvard of the West.
Always talked about it, the Harvard of the West, yeah.
No longer, I don't think any longer, one of the top party schools in the nation. I think that ASU has kind of fizzled out. Honestly.
Oh yeah, when I was there, frat row was still a thing, and they like wiped it all out. Now it's just like parking garages. So
we're gonna bulldoze all that. So you have played a really significant role in several real estate teams, and that journey that you were on led to you being the founder and the CEO of Bara Agency, and a new business on the cutting edge of AI, which is called Shiloh. So I love you repping the T-shirt there for the listeners. We can't wait to hear the story on both Bara and Shiloh. And then also something else that you're really excited about lately, which has been the Inspection Period, a podcast that you and a couple of fellow co-hosts started, where you guys are kind of talking all things real estate, interviewing some really cool people. So that's the rundown. What did I miss? Any other big, like, let's talk maybe hobby, favorite movie, band? Give us a little
movie. I'm one of those people that watches Harry Potter like 4 times a year all the way through. So me and Taylor's wife have that in common for sure.
It's true.
Yes.
Bonded over that. The candles that she puts out every year that are like Harry Potter themed. I buy like 7 million of them every single year. So yeah, definitely on that side. I don't know. Hobbies, I try to golf as much as I can. It's kind of like my thing that I do, but still like music from time to time, lots of vinyl nights with friends and kind of doing that stuff. But a lot of my life is taken up. If it's not being CEO, it's trying to figure out how to continue to be a good father and husband and all of that stuff in the middle. So yeah, little sleep happening in my life right now, but I don't think we missed anything crazy catastrophic. I've ridden a bull in my life, I guess. Like we could, I had an older brother that was a professional bull rider, and he stuck me on a bull out in Louisiana, and I got stepped on, and I never rode a bull ever again. It was a stupid idea to do it anyways. I think I was just trying to prove that I was like one of them. So
That's good. That's good. He's a closet musician. So like when he says, "Hey, I dabble," he doesn't just mean that he dabbles. He's like, "Oh, I've written songs. I've got albums out. We had a producer, music videos, all those good things." So when Justin says, yeah, I've dabbled in that, or that's a little bit of a
Technically,
hobby.
we're still signed to Tooth and Nail Records. I don't know if they're all going to listen to this. We owe them another record still. I don't know when they're going to come knocking on our door for that, but yeah, we did too.
This is what happens with Justin. This is Justin's personality, all right? Is like, what is this, 2019 or something? We're playing golf. Justin has never played golf in his life. I think he showed up with a plastic bag, like a grocery bag full of golf balls.
I think I did actually. Yeah.
And like 2/3 of the way through the round, he's through all of them.
Yep.
Like they're all gone, because he's a baseball player. So dude gets his hips in and his turn in and all these kind of things. And all of a sudden he decides, I'm going to master this freaking thing. Like this is like, this will be my thing. And all I know is like, every time I talk to Justin for the next 9 months, what are you doing? Dude, I just hit my second bucket of balls and I'm playing golf this afternoon. Like, what the heck?
It's called OCD, shooting like is the clinical term for what you're talking about right now. So
yeah, dude dropped like 40. He's like, only played golf for like 4 years. You wouldn't know. He dropped like 40 strokes from that first time to now. It's like, man, wouldn't got a coach. Justin doesn't go small on anything. Like if you're in, man, you're you're in. So
only one gear. That sign behind you says it all, right?
My friends bought me this sign. Actually, I didn't buy it for myself. Some friends bought it for me, and it made me feel like less like a crazy person, basically, for always being the person that's like, maybe we could do more. What do So at least at this point, people know what they're coming for if they want to get my advice on something. So I need to go seek advice from other people. That's like, hey, Justin, you're good enough. You should slow down. Maybe there's less things. So.
You need people pushing. For those of you who are listening, like on iHeartRadio, all two of you that still use iHeartRadio, which that's a thing, Justin, it's published. Yeah, people still use it. I have a tennis buddy. We play tennis. He puts on his music. It's iHeartRadio. We have to listen to commercials. I'm like, who still does this?
My wife does that with Pandora, the free I'm like, why do you do this? We pay for Spotify.
Why?
And she's like, I don't like the playlists. I'm like, whatever.
there is some truth. I mean, like the Apple playlists are probably the worst that I have. So maybe having both services work. But the sign says comfort is a slow death, which
that's right.
I think is very true. And Justin would probably be the first one to say that's why you need friends that are like, Justin, you got to slow down so that you don't die from running too hard the other way, which is attention. Which brings me to our game that we like to play and kick off the podcast with sometimes, which is called Justin Slow Burn. It's a deep
burn. Well, I feel like your voice needs to get deeper when you introduce that.
I know. Yeah, this is where sometimes I have a cigar. I'll pull out a cigar here. I want to pull them. Be like slow burn and have a little whiskey. So slow burn was supposed to be rapid fire. And it's still a rapid fire game, but
I'm confused. Really slow burn is a rapid fire.
What happened is we would ask. The point of the game is we give leaders two paradoxes, right? Leadership is a lot about paradoxes, things that may be competing, and we just say, "Hey, rock and a hard place. You got to choose one, and why?"
Oh, geez.
And that became challenging for people, and so rather than it being rapid fire, it became slow. But the point of the game is, so if somebody said, hey, you should call it slow burn. It's not rapid fire, you dummies. All right, okay, well, we'll rebrand it. So the point of the game is, hey, we're going to give you two composing or opposing ideas. And you talk about, hey, push comes to shove. If you had to choose one that's best for you and your business and leadership, which one are you going to choose, right? So you don't have an option. Sometimes people choose option C. Everybody wins. We don't like that, but you can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and then you just give a quick. Okay, this is why. Like this is why I would do that. So I'll start. I got a few. Brad will jump in. You ready? You ready for this?
I think so. Let's hope I don't say something dumb. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, well, that's the fun part. So, all right, slow burn. Pick one or the other. All right. So which one would you choose if you had to? Being or doing?
Oof, doing. If I'm left to my own devices, doing is my default mechanism, and it's what comes easiest to me. We did that Enneagram tri-type thing, and I'm in a 7-8-3 tri-type, and if you know anything about the Enneagram, all three of those have zero chill in them. Basically, it is gas pedal down all of the way. We've ripped the brakes out of the car. So I know I'm not supposed to say D, all of the above, but what I constantly have to work on in my life is being, but if push comes to shove, I've had a lot of good from the doing. So
love that. That's good. See, you get the game. All right, next one, people or tasks, man.
Woo. People, for sure. That one's easy. People are the ones that do the tasks. So pour into people, build really great team and culture, and the tasks will sort themselves out.
Got it. Yeah, I love that. That's a good answer. All right, relationships or results?
Ooh. Dang, that one's hard. My brain's going in two different directions on that, because I've experienced many times where a group of people chasing one result together created really incredible relationships along the way, right? Everybody swimming in one direction, kind of in striving towards that thing, like created relationship along the way. And it's like chicken or the egg for me, or does the relationships create the results? Oh man, I don't know. If I'm have my CEO hat on, results. I'm gonna choose results. So
cool. Love it. That was good. I haven't heard somebody flip that way and think about, man, in the way to creating the result, we actually created some good relationships. That's a pretty cool idea.
People going on a mission together, like you develop, you get in the trenches together, and you bond through like the hard and the struggle and the stuff that you go through. Yeah. It's like why everybody that their high school football team, they're still friends with all of those people, because they had to suffer through Hell Week and all those practices and getting yelled at and whatnot. It like bonds people together. So
totally. No, that's a really good point. So, all right, Brad, burn him. All
right, values or vision?
Ooh. Values, because values are the thing that actually creates culture in the first place. I know lots of companies that have really great vision and pretty crappy values, and nobody wants to work there. So I think that if you're going to accomplish a really incredible vision, you have to have really great values to organize everybody in the right direction first.
Goodness or greatness?
I'll say goodness. The little Enneagram tri-type achiever in my brain is like, greatness. Put me on Mount Rushmore, whatever. But honestly, when push comes to shove, like I want to leave this world being known for being a generous, good-hearted, helping person. I don't care if anybody knows my name. I just want to be able to leave knowing that I made some kind of impact in the people around me.
Culture or productivity?
Culture, for sure. I'm a big culture guy. I think productivity comes as a side effect of culture and those values that we talked about earlier. If you set those correctly, then everything kind of sorts itself out, right? But you have to really hold the line on that stuff.
Right. That's good. Okay, last one here. Recovery or performance?
Another one of those issues for me in my own personal life, prioritizing recovery. Geez, man, I don't know. I'm going to say recovery, mainly because I'm speaking to myself. This isn't like a one size fits all wisdom kind of thing, but I perform at a higher level when I prioritize recovery, because my default mechanism is not recovery. I'm prone to running myself into the ground, to be thoroughly honest, right? So recovery for me is something that allows me to perform at a much higher level. So.
Very good. All right, so this has been fun. So far we've kind of
nailed it.
Yeah, you crushed it.
That's
good.
Yeah, like we'll give you a 7, but we won't tell you what the scoring.
This is where you actually like kick people off, right? If like they gave bad answers, you just stop.
Yeah, totally. Right now. So this is going to be the end of the podcast. You made it 13 minutes, but we're really proud of you, man. So the path is narrow. We consider this just like trying to get into heaven.
So
an analogy there.
You're here. You're welcome. Okay, so tell us your story, man. We kind of hit some of the high level points. We're getting to know a little bit of your personality and your style and your approach to things, but kind of help the listeners understand how Justin got to where he is today.
Oh, geez. You want me to start at birth? crawled into the world and saw a bright
Yeah.
light, like, or
Yeah, and like I would say
You crawled out. You actually crawled out of the womb. You
yeah,
were like,
exactly.
I didn't slide out, guys.
No.
I intentionally got
I
myself,
got myself out of there.
That's
I
right.
was done. I was done resting, you know. um, Honestly, all right. So we can reel it backwards. Biochemistry major at ASU, literally have that degree. I have enough anatomical knowledge to just not need WebMD to think I'm dying, to misdiagnose myself. I don't need to use the internet. I can get there all on my own because I've dissected a dead person for no good reason. I went all the way through it because I thought I wanted to be a doctor, like an orthopedic surgeon. And when I started taking my MCATs, somebody informed me that I would go to med school, and then I would do my residency, and then I would have to go do a fellowship. And then, like, I don't know, 15 years later, I'd finally be on my own, and I would only work on left knees for the rest of my life. And I was like, that sounds like a terrible, terrible existence, honestly. I thought this doctor thing would be way more fun than that. So I pushed the eject button and started a tech company with my buddy Aaron Tracy, who is now head of internal tools of Olive Stripe, actually. So we started that tech company. We're building like remote access to files for small and medium-sized businesses back when like your file servers ran on a like Windows 98 server. Our emails used to go through that like local server in our office. And if the power goes down, your emails don't work anymore. Like back in that day of technology. And what's funny is that what we realized after the fact is that we were literally building the ability for these businesses to access their files remotely at a fraction of the price. We were building Dropbox, and we had no vision for it, and we just sold it to a local a computer company because Aaron got this dream job to go defend Disney's servers from hackers and ended up becoming senior systems architect or engineer, whatever the heck he became over there. And so that was the big $1 billion mistake I made when I was 21 years old. So went from that, built another tech company, got out of that, and I was honestly getting married to my wife in the middle of that transition. I was going to take the month off, get married, come back from my honeymoon, and mine and Taylor's mutual friend, John Glutch, called me out of the blue and said, "Hey, dude, I know you're like building that software thing for elementary schools. Do you want to start a real estate company?" Biochem tech Justin never crossed my mind, but like his daughter's my goddaughter, and I had no idea what I was going to do when I got back from the honeymoon. So I said, sure, sounds good. So I went and got a real estate license and came back from the honeymoon. We started building the Glutch Group, and it was a ton of fun. Built it into 3 states, selling lots and lots of houses. And that's kind of where the convergence of technology and real estate kind of happened in my life, you know, because I was just stressed out, you know, team leader, agent, trying to figure out how to not have a panic attack over the weekends as I was trying to get everything done. So I just did what I did when I was in tech, which was I built software to help me get better and more productive, right? So I've personally sold like 300 some odd homes in my lifetime as well. So I know how to sell a little bit of real estate. And from there, this is welcome to my eclectic life. You asked for it, man. So here it is.
Yeah, let it rip, man. I'm enjoying
Brad
that.
invited it.
Yeah,
Brad invited it.
This is your fault, Brad.
I'll take that.
The only reason
that's my favorite thing to say.
The only reason I left the Glutch Group is because I wrote a song while my dad was like passing away. My dad died of cancer, and while he was passing away, I wrote this song called "Goodness." And we had this like thing, this like worship night thing that we did every first Friday called Renew, where like lots of people would come, and it was like a free thing. It wasn't even an organization; just friends would get together, play music, everybody sings together, and then the thing would disappear at the end of the night, right? And I sang that song, and a guy named Cody Carnes, who's married to Carrie Job, he texted and was like, "Hey, that song's pretty special. You guys should do something with it." And I was like, yeah, you're the one signed to Capitol Records. You should just like buy it from us. Like, just do that. And he's like, no, I mean, like, you guys should do something with that. And it was like 3 months later, we had a signed record deal to Tooth and Nail Records and BEC, their like worship subsect label, for 3 records with 0 published work at all. Like when our very first record like got posted, we had to like create our Spotify accounts at midnight when the music dropped because we didn't even have them. So I did that for a couple years and wrote music, and it was a lot of fun to get to do it with my good friends. And it was one of those detours that like I just had to take, honestly. It had been a lifetime dream of mine to be able to write music and get paid for it and do that. And it was pretty cool to see it happen. I don't know. We threw a party at 100,000 streams thinking that we were cool, and then it just kept going. And now it's like millions and millions of streams, which is interesting. So that's just grocery money, by the way, for all of you that think I'm some gajillionaire for that.
That's not the streams Taylor Swift is getting.
Yes,
but it's still a lot.
Zero money from streaming music, by the way.
That's why she charges so much for her tour.
Exactly. Yeah, that's how you make money as a performer, is touring. And like the real reason why I like me personally, I decided that I didn't want to do this as a career was because I didn't love performing enough to be away from my family that much. You know, like there's like a real sacrifice that you have to make to be a touring performing artist. You'll miss large swaths of your kid's life. I mean, it's just the way that you generate income. It's your job, right? So I just didn't love it enough to actually dedicate myself to that. I just liked being in the studio and making money. I like being in the studio and making music. So that whole thing kind of led to I just like solving problems, basically, is really what the core of that was. So from there, I started another real estate company accidentally. I was doing like tech consulting stuff, pre-Bara agency, and helped this gal build her company to become the #1 real estate or VA real estate team in the state of Arizona. And it still is. And then after all of that, I finally burned out. I had like literally crashed and burned and took 6 months off of life. I was out of steam. I experienced what real burnout feels like, just like staring at my wall every day. The best way I could describe it was I was used to waking up with $1 to spend, and I only had 25 cents to spend every single day. I was just like operating at no capacity at all, which is I'm not used to that because I'm used to being a very high capacity person. So took 6 months off of life. And that's when this whole Bara agency thing, Taylor's wearing one of the shirts over there. Whenever that happened, I had some old real estate friends going, "Hey, is there anybody that does that thing that you were doing when you were owner and partner in these real estate teams?" And that by that thing, they meant somebody to build technology in their companies that streamlines everything and makes it easy for them and helps them become more productive. And there was nobody. And I'd never heard of like, they didn't need a COO or ops person. They had that on lock already. What they really needed was a CTO, but that's not even close to a full-time job, even in the largest of real estate entities, which are our clients, you know? And we rolled out this fractional thing as a test bunny deal over basically 3 months, over a quarter, and it worked. And we raised a little bit of funding and we started Bara Agency. So we served initially in the real estate space to be a fractional CTO for primarily large and medium format teams and brokerages, right? And then from there, it kind of turned into product consulting for all of the big SaaS companies that existed in the space. And then Taylor joined us as a systems architect on that side for a while. And it's fun seeing Taylor get thrown in the technology pit. Like, here you go, Taylor, learn what JavaScript is and also read this API back to me. So yeah, he's a pro now though. Like Taylor can do that stuff. He's an absolute pro. Don't give me that.
Pro might be a stretch, but you know, I'm there.
You're a
I'm
pro.
there.
I mean, your clients haven't bailed on you, so you must be doing something great, you know. So
that's true. Yeah, we're really good friends. You know, they just really like friends. I haven't delivered on anything yet, but we're good friends.
I love that. Okay, Bar agency fractional CTO thing went really, really well. Grew faster than we expected it to be. We kind of became this like IBM of that industry, which is crazy to say. Like our clients would be like Zillow and people like that, which is really fun. And then we started an e-com division because we realized that there were a bunch of e-commerce online businesses that could benefit from the same thing, starting primarily in the coaching kind of info space. So people selling courses, things like that. And then it kind of branched out into much more broader e-com. And so we have an e-com division. And funny enough, the way that we run things at Bara Agency, and it's kind of who I am, is I want to, if at all possible, it's hard in a small company to create upward trajectory, right? Like there's only so many spots to fill, right? So when people have dreams of directions that the company could go or a division of the company, I want to try to like support those as much as humanly possible. And Taylor actually came to me and was like, dude, I think that my superpower is like actual personal development and coaching. And I went, no, duh, that's your superpower. Like, that's exactly what you're best at. There's a reason why so many of the Bara agency clients love you. And Taylor, we now have a Bara coaching division. And I don't know, catch me up on that. You probably know more about that than I do. So I'm super micromanaged, as you can tell. So
yeah, he messes in my day to day all the time. I'm like, Justin, just get out of here, man. As you can tell. No, I mean, Bara coaching has been fantastic, and Justin does a really cool job of letting people kind of figure out, hey, what do you gifted at, and then if you got a good idea, like go run after it. So, Bara coaching is just what it sounds like. We've got clients coming in and looking to develop themselves in leadership, their companies, their teams. So the premise of it is, hey, a healthy me, whatever I am, can lead to a healthy team, and framework can lead to a healthy bottom line, rather than typically the way that we approach it a lot of the time, which is, hey, when my numbers are there, when I'm getting enough money in, then I can pour back into my team and the culture, and then I'll finally get to rest, which Justin would be the first one to tell you, hey, it doesn't work that way. If you're not taking care of you now and figuring out the you that you want to be now, it's not going to happen later. So Bara coaching is saying, hey, whatever your problems are in your company, you are the leader, you have your team or your company. Hey, let's figure those out. Let's get creative on some solutions. And most of the time, those problems lie within us, right? They're our own personal struggles that we then project onto our company. So helping people get clear in vision, mission, value, and then executing that with your team. And how do you really get people to do what Justin said? Like, if this is the vision, that's the mountain. Dude, we can create all those relationships. We want everybody to be going in that direction. So Bara coaching up and running. It's fun. Brad and I are doing a spinoff of that, of some group coaching, if people are interested in that. More details coming up, but that's a group event that we're doing together. And you can also do personal one-on-one coaching, which is something that Brad does with Pattern Talent as well. So yeah, man, that is
put
Bara
this man
coaching.
on stage.
So,
He's ready. He's nailed it. How like, did you like stare in the mirror for a while to like get ready for that, or like?
Yeah, every morning I just wake up and I just look at myself and I have this conversation. So I like talking.
Coaching.
Yeah, but I married a wife who reminds me, like, God, you talk a lot, don't you? I'm like, yes, I do. That's the only way to get better at talking, is to talk more. Which is why I love, I'm a guy that's in recovery. It's great. You go to a recovery group and you got to listen, 100 times more than you talk, which is actually the main point of coaching.
My wife will literally dismiss things that I say that are past the like 256 character limit of X or Twitter or whatever it's called.
you're like talking and she just texts you, TDO, like too long.
Go do better. Come back and try again, please. Less words.
Please edit the statement.
Man.
Yes, less words, please. Go get your AI bot to go give you a better statement to tell me.
That's right. Summarize that and come back.
Yeah.
So no, I mean, that's Bara coaching and Bara agency. You've done a great job, and now you've got Shiloh.
Yeah.
You want to touch real quickly? What is Shiloh, man?
Shiloh. So like the dream of Bara agency was always that we as a technology agency are building lots of strange edge cases all the time that are fitting needs that the current technologies of the space don't actually fulfill. And it's interesting because we get to observe to see which ones are actually worthwhile and maybe which ones should actually be productized for the mass market. So we sat around kind of spiraling around ideas for about 3 years before the first one emerged. And Shiloh was a project with a bar agency client. He basically wanted us to use AI to listen to all of the calls that were happening through his sales organization, a large sales organization as well, 300 some odd people, more than that, like 340 something people. So listen to it, give call grading, give summaries, give the outcome, and give agent coaching. So for like 6 months, we watched that prototype happen. His team doubled in size without having to hire additional sales managers. So that was interesting, like scaling without additional overhead. And he was also using the prototype to catch relationships going wrong earlier in the process, because calls are such an invisible part of a sales organization. Like you can't listen to every call. It's literally impossible to do that. You can't hire enough staff to do it. So if the AI can listen to every call, maybe we could distill information from it and make better assessments. And also an unknown side effect that we did not plan for was actually be able to see when that relationship is going wrong earlier in the sales cycle. So that way you can step in before that person kind of bails on you, right? So went to Levi because all of our clients own, if everybody's listening to this, you're like, you guys just like rip off like things from your clients, No, our clients own everything that we build for them. So I went to Levi.
We're still friends with them.
Yes, yeah. we put together a deal, and he's a co-founder, and we figured out how to make that work, right? So we spooled up Shiloh that does just that. It listens to it's for real estate lenders, kind of real estate adjacent spaces right now, but it listens to every single call that your sales organization makes. It assigns a grade. It gives very deep agent coaching. I mean, the thing was trained with millions and millions of hours of real estate calls. So it gives very deep, precise agent coaching to the degree of like, if I said, hey, Taylor, I'm going to send you some listings here in a little bit. Let's just make sure we circle back next week to, I don't know, set up a time to go see them, right? Shiloh will give coaching right away that said, hey, that's really good that you set some kind of follow-up, but what you should have said was, hey, Taylor, in about 15 minutes, I'm going to send you all of these listings we just talked about. And are you around on Saturday? I'm pretty wide open. We should set up a time to go see your top 3. Like the correct thing to do is some kind of clear, committed next step, right? And even on the customer service side of that, like, let's say I'm going to use real estate analogies because this is what or examples because that's what it's for right now. But we get an inspection back and the buyer that we're representing is worried that the roof is like catastrophically damaged, right? So the next step is let's go talk to a roofer. Let's get some bids. Let's figure out how damaged this roof actually is and what it's going to cost to repair it. So a bad way of going about that on the customer service end is, okay, I'm going to give some roofers a call, and I'll give you a call as soon as I have any more information. Click. You think that you're addressing the issue, but what you just created was an open loop in the back of that person's anxious brain, like in the middle of this very emotional transaction. Now they're just sitting there worried, So Shiloh will give coaching that says what you should have said was, I'm going to give a few of my favorite roofers calls, people that I know that I can trust, and see if I can get some bids back on what it would cost to repair this roof. And rest assured, like I'm going to update you in 2 hours regardless. So expect to hear back from me in 2 hours, and I'll just kind of keep you updated along the way. So that way we can close that anxious loop, right? And then it's spooling all the data up to the agent level and also up to the org level, so we can create insights on a mass of all of their calls, or we can pull entire swaths of let's look at all 100 of these agents and see what their commonalities are and their areas of improvement for all of that, right? So it's been fun to build, and it's growing like crazy right now. It's like holding on to a rocket ship, honestly. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, that includes countless nights of, no sleep and running around the country and, all kinds of behind the scene work. But what I love is it's really cool because you found a gap kind of in the business that you couldn't keep up with scaling it, hiring people. And he said, hey, we can't keep hiring staff. There's too much overhead. So let's just replace that. This is where we can leverage technology to kind of fill in that gap, right? And then empower your team. So, Levi can use his mentors and himself to equip, empower, and encourage his team to say, hey, great job. And here's some feedback. And they have that without needing to spend umpteen hours listening to calls, right? It's just a really cool way. And it's something I want to talk about and circle back later of like, how can we leverage technology to fill in the gaps in the business that we haven't previously been able to? So,
yeah, I'm an AI nerd at this point, so you get me started on that and I can go for hours.
Yeah, we'll be here all day. Yeah. Well, tell me, so kind of the direction I wanted to go for a little bit is you have, started up multiple businesses. And I think a lot of our listeners are listening and wondering about leadership, and a lot of them may be very entrepreneurial focused, but either not ready to jump in or stuck in their current business or looking for some encouragement. So I kind of wanted to take us on a journey with some questions about, hey, how have you done this? What does that look like? What has the Bara journey been like in particular? But before we even get into that, one question that we asked all of our guests, and it'll be interesting to see your take based on everything that you've done, is how do you define, or what is leadership?
Leadership to me is growing big people, and I'm not the originator of this statement, and I'm sure the person that I got it from was not the originator of this statement. But like I heard Bill Johnson once say, he didn't want to build a big church; he wanted to build big people, right? And
Right.
that's been my philosophy ever from like in all of the companies, is that if we do a good job building our people and helping create stepping stones to their dreams. It's a bit like the if you help enough people accomplish their dreams, then yours too will come to pass mentality. And
Sure.
doing that with our team and our employees and making sure that they feel equipped and prepared and also accountable as well. There's that portion of leadership that people shy away from, which is that accountability thing, right? But like at Bara agencies, core value number one is we do what we say we're going to do. Like that's a no. We will not tolerate within Bara agency people not doing what they say they're going to do. Like that is our culture, right? And then the very next core value is leave people better than you found them. So that's juxtaposed with this like mentality of helping people in the same way that we curate that internally. We want to then have that be an overflow into our clients and let them experience what that feels like as well, right? So the crux of that to me is that dichotomy, and not even dichotomy, but like that pairing of building big people and also having accountability within the organization, because it creates a safe space for people. People know where the line is, right? Like nobody at Bar Agency is ever surprised if they just like people make mistakes, right? Like we have lots of grace in areas like stuff happens, people make mistakes. That's not what I'm talking about. I don't want anybody to like run from making mistakes or have to feel like they have to hide in our culture, right? And hopefully that's not the case. But on the flip side of that, if our word is our word, right? And if somebody gives a client our word, like Davis, one of our engineers, early on in his experience with the company, he goes, "Hey, dude, I like totally mismanaged my time, and I got this deliverable for a client next week, like Monday, but I don't think I'm going to make it. I'm not going to get it done by Friday in order to like deliver it by Monday. Could we extend the timeline out to Tuesday?" And my only response was, "No, like we do what we say we're going to do, And, I sent him a Starbucks gift card, like via mobile, and was like, "Here's some caffeine to help you through the weekend, man. But like, there is no other option here." Right. So I guess that's what I mean by when I say accountability. It creates a safe space. So that way nobody's surprised when I respond in that way. So.
Yeah, that's so good. Justin, something that is coming to mind right now. I remember when Taylor first started with you and he was getting onboarded to some of the systems and processes that you guys use to manage internal tasks and communication.
Yeah.
And I had like called him in the middle of the day for something. I had it was like a random thing. And he was like, "Hey, I can't talk right now. Like, what's up?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? It's like 4:30. And he's like, No. Like I have to inbox zero and I have to complete all of these tasks in the next half hour. Like, or I can't, do what's next." And I was like, "Well, can't you just do it tomorrow?" Like, I was like, he's like, no, actually I can't.
Yeah.
And like, this is the expectation. And I just remember thinking like how cool that was that you guys were collectively saying, "Hey, before we close the laptop today, like we're clearing out communication and we're clearing out tasks and we're starting tomorrow, like at zero, not, 10 deep in pending items." And I just think, I don't know how that has evolved as you guys have grown. And I'm sure that there's been maturation and evolution to those things, but just knowing that he was building those disciplines and comparing that to even some of my own self-leadership and self-management disciplines at the time, I was like, wow, like I really need to level up and I need to expect more of myself on that front. So that's just a cool.
It's also like keeping
takeaway.
people, like taking care of people in the same light, right? Because like we all know what it feels like to be so anxious with all those tasks that we just kick down the road. And there's so many memes about it. Like it took me 5 minutes to complete a task that like I procrastinated 6 months on, and caused all this anxiety, whatever. There's this terrible sense of defeat that happens in a human when you just feel like you never got it all all done in the day, and you never feel accomplished to that degree, right? You have to like manufacture that, because the reality is that there's always more work than can get done in a day. That's true. So like, it's a fallacy to think, like, especially me in CEO seat, I have too, like, I'll never be able to catch up, right? So like, I've got like little notepad systems over here where I just, in the very beginning of my day, I just write down the most 3 important things that I have to get done today. So as long as I get those 3 things done, no matter how my day got hijacked or whatever, I can look at that and go, well done, Justin. You set out to do what you said you were going to do today, right? So, and then I can go home and feel like I can actually shut down the machine. So,
yeah,
that's so good.
Yeah, Brad calling me, taking up my busy time, turd.
Closing shop time, man.
This is early time too. So I'm sure it was like one of my first projects. And I'm like, dude, I have to figure out how to get this done. And I have no idea, so if you're not dying, please hang up the phone.
Yeah.
Now.
Also, an issue with Justin is training. I am a world-class terrible trainer, basically. I just tell people that, like, if you're going to work close to me, you learn in the fire, because that's how I learned too, by necessity.
YouTube.
So thankfully there's people in our organization now that are much better than I am, and actually have a system for training and caring for people in that way, because I'm world-class bad at that, actually. So
well, let's lean into kind of that direction. Like, I'm curious, as you reflect on maybe some of these early startups, whether it's on the tech side, the real estate side, even, some of the music career stuff that you did, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced in just understanding like who you are, how you work, what it's like to lead people? I'm curious how you kind of identified those challenges and overcame them, and knowing it's a continual process.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is that it takes time and effort. It's like both of them. You can put a lot of effort in it, and I always make a joke that like you don't actually figure out who you are until you at least hit 30, basically, because like in your 20s you're just kind of getting your teeth kicked in a whole bunch, and like it's worthwhile and it's necessary, right? I thankfully had a lot of really great mentors along the way that were kind of like my bowling bumpers that kept me from falling into the gutters along the way, and they made sure that I like highly prioritized mentorship as well as like some therapy, to make sure that Don Wooster, a mutual friend of I think all of ours actually, he told me once, he goes, hey, you are somebody that will live your entire life in avalanche territory. So there is no stopping that. It is just literally who you are. It's hardwired. You came out of the womb to be that person. So if that's the case, my goal is not to teach you how to avoid avalanches. My goal is to teach you how to survive them and live within them, right? So like all of the stress management stuff and the growing and learning, a lot of my capacity has been learning to delegate the things that I just admit that I'm not good at, right? Like one of the very first, very expensive hires we made at Bara agency was my dear friend, Nicole, who is the counter opposite of me. She is thoroughly black and white. My entire world is gray. There is not even black and white. It's just all of it's gray. And she is very, very black and white and systems and process oriented. And she's not scared to be like, hey, Justin, I swear to God, if you do that thing again, I'm literally going to slash your tires in the parking lot. So please,
and she will.
Please do not do that thing again, right? But I knew that I need that in an organization to create the stability necessary for a thriving culture, because I am good at generating activity. That's what I'm good at. But when you generate activity, it comes with a level of chaos and disorganization, right? So having somebody that is able to man that seat and actually just give it to them and trust that they're going to do a good job is one of the hardest lessons that I had to learn. That personally, that was one of the big ones, was actually just knowing who I was and knowing what I was not good at, actually.
That's so good.
I ask people that from time to time, and I kind of evaluate how well somebody knows themselves when I ask them, hey, so like, yeah, great, you got all these accomplishments. Like, what do you suck at? Tell me about that, and if they can pretty precisely go this, and I've also hired that out to somebody else, and I'm not scared to talk about it, then I kind of go, okay, so you've done the work to go sort that out, right? The other thing in me was Enneagram 7 primarily. I am not I had to work at being good at confrontation, basically. So I married a wife, who is an 8, by the way, which is just confrontation. That's who that personality type is. Like just freaking say it. Like, stop trying to sugarcoat it. Like, literally 256 characters or less. Tell me, right? So some early mistakes that I made was not being confrontational when I needed to be. And I like hurt some people along the way. Like I strung people along because I was trying to like not hurt their feelings. And like, I knew that maybe they weren't going to actually be good enough to fulfill the expectations that I knew that role was going to happen. But like, I want to give them another chance. I want to give them another chance. I want to give them another chance. And I had to learn pretty fast where that line was and how to have those like hard conversations in a very direct manner. And now I feel like I'm awesome at it. But it took a lot of work to get there. So those 2 challenges, honestly, biggest ones that limited me. I guess there's a third one now that I think of it, because it's my current state, is my ability to not operate out of fear, but inspiration, right? So it's like looking at the different fuels of gas that you put in the car. Like, fear is it's incredibly flammable. Like, it will push you so terribly hard. You can accomplish crazy things using fear as your fuel. But it's like shitty fuel for the car, and it's going to blow up the engine, right? Like it's going to fall off. Like, everything is going to go wrong. You're going to overheat that thing and it's going to melt down. And I had to go from this place of this scarcity mindset of like always operating out of like, oh my God, the company is going to crash and burn. We're going to be poor. Oh my gosh. Like, all from waking myself up in that anxious energy and actually doing it, to actually waking myself up and being inspired my day-to-day did not change. It was my mindset on how I was approaching my day-to-day is what actually changed, and kind of slowly but surely rewiring my brain to get used to a different kind of fuel. Right. And my fear in the very beginning was, I remember talking to my therapist. He's like, well, like, are you willing to like let go of that part of yourself? I'm like, honestly, no, because I'm like successful because of that part of myself. I'm really, really good at being that person, and it took until I like burned out and crashed and realized that that's just not sustainable anymore to finally have to make a change and move in that direction. So,
man, that's
so insightful.
Brad, I know you have another question, but there's 2 things that I just wanted to circle back on because I really hope that our listeners heard them. One is, I think the idea of figuring out how to survive the avalanche is actually a really cool one, because I think most people try and get rid of the avalanche in their life, whatever it is. Whatever your style is, they're like, man, this style is not working for me. So what's the next book I need to read? What's the next idea I need to have to operate in a different way? And I think what Wu was helping you see is like, no, we just got to come up with some, like, that is actually your superpower.
Yeah.
Like, that is one of your things, Justin, is like to be able to go like, last, I don't know, 2 times ago when we talked, it was like, God, I was on a plane to Vegas, and then I was running to this conference, and then I was at a mastermind, and then I had 17 calls in one day. And then like, that is your superpower. You just have to learn how to deal with that well. Right. Otherwise it'll lead to burnout.
It was anxiety was his thing that he was hitting on there, right? Like, my goal is not to remove anxiety from your life, because you will live in that space. It's what you are. Right. And that's not a bad thing. Some people were actually made for that. Right. But my goal is to teach you how to navigate and survive through in a healthy way the anxiety that will be around you,
Yes. And that's it. And realizing the harder we actually try and get rid of that anxiety, the more it's going to pop up, right? I don't know if you've ever tried that. It's like, all right, freaking go away, anxiety. It doesn't work.
Bury it down deep and just die with it, right? Like, that's...
That's it. That's it. The things that we don't want to feel, the more that we push them away is not helpful, right? It's better if we embrace them. And so I also hope our listeners here, I think your point about fear actually really struck a chord with me, because I lived so much of my life out of fear. And you said it works to a certain extent, right? I mean, it works really, really well to keep me in survival mode. And I can operate there, at a high level. And it's gotten me through, it's the way I used to operate in high school. Did you get your homework done? Did you operate? No, I didn't. I'll just operate in fear. Okay, finally, I'm scared enough that I'll get it all done and perform at the end, right? But truthfully, it's bad gas in the car.
Yeah.
And eventually it just won't work. So what are on that, like, what are some of the things that you did to help yourself change from fear to motivation? Like, are there practical things that you're like, we always have our little like practicality corner. There's a little jingle. We can't hear it. Brad, do not play anything. You play cheesy. But like, what are some of the ways that you started reframing that for yourself?
Yeah, unfortunately, I wish there was a fast way to do it, but it's like literally it's repetition, right? So my mind is so used to operating in a specific way because that's been a part of myself for a long time. So like if you're asking for like the actual tactical skills of what I did to get there, part of it was like this parts work stuff that I did with my therapist to like have a conversation with that part of myself that feels like it needs to be in the driver's seat all the time. And like, what is it so scared of? Like, what is it protecting me for? And like one of the conversations I had early on in that parts work stuff was, he goes, I was like, man, I'm really proud of the fact that every time somebody told me I couldn't do something, I freaking proved them wrong. Like I wear that like a badge of honor. And he went, that's really great. Like resiliency is very important in a human being. Just take a quick inventory. Like who at this point in your life is telling you that you can't do it? And I started thinking and I went, oh geez, like it's just me. Like that's a problem, you know? And he's like, exactly. That is a problem. You're not being resilient to exterior like stressors anymore. It's internal, and that's going to drive you mad, right? So a lot of that work with my therapist, and then outside of that, it's honestly taking the time and once you have awareness of that thing happening in you, that it pops up and what it looks like and what it feels like, then it's just taking the time to go, okay, like, what is that fear? Is it real? Is it like imagined? Like some fears are real, whatever. And most of the time it's imagined and it's not as scary as it actually is. And let's go ahead and like sit with that for a second and then kind of go reassure that part of myself that wants to grab the steering wheel again out of fear that like, no, it's actually okay. Like we're not going to die. We're not being chased by a tiger. Like everything's fine actually. Right. And that kind of repetition slowly but surely, I mean, it's like, thankfulness is like a learned skill, you know, like learning how to be thankful is something that you have to cultivate in your life. It's not something that like really comes natural. So it's really just that reminding myself over and over again that it's going to be okay. And then also like a real good practical thing that I did to convince myself about it was I did like here's a list of all of the times that the worst case scenario actually happened in my life. And I just wrote them all down because there have been a handful in my life of some really hard stuff that has happened.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So like that was real. But then I made another column of when did like the best thing or even a better thing than I even imagined that it could have turned into, like how many times have that happened? And that list was way longer than the other one. But fear is such this primal, like it amplifies your emotions, right? So even though that list was this small, it actually feels as big as the other list is, if not bigger. But staring at them in reality going, okay, great. If I'm going to assume the worst, the probability is pretty low on that side. So like I should probably just like assume the best moving forward. And I had to like kind of consciously every time I woke up with fear and like did that, I had to reassure myself like, okay, so like what's the best case scenario? If we're going to go down that road, let's go down the other one as well, you know? So
yeah, that's super good. That's good, man. Yeah. We had Shane Kuiper on last week, and he talked a lot about how he's doing all this neurocognitive research and stuff. And he said, hey, it's super interesting. The brain is always seeking to actually feel good, right? So that's literally how it is wired. And so it is wiring itself to go, whatever bad experience you have, absolutely do anything you can to avoid that.
Yep.
And so those are huge indicators that get notched in the brain. But we do have neuroplasticity. In other words, the brain can rewire itself. It just takes time, especially if that emotion that was tied to the fear is super strong. Which for most of us it is, right? Most of us, those are potentially younger experiences where emotion is high. We're not processing it as well, and it's locked in there. So I think there's a great thought of like, okay, here's even a framework or way to think about it, and then just slow and steady.
Well, and you're not like, you don't throw out that part of yourself, right? It's actually like an acknowledgement that like, thank you for protecting me during those hard times. Like that piece of me, like actually did a very good job at the role that it needed to serve. But we're out of crisis mode, and I need you to take like a couple steps back from the steering wheel now, right?
That's right.
Knowing that if I get into a situation like that again, that part of me still exists in there and it will protect me. Like, then I can give it permission and go like, yeah, no. We're like literally being chased by a tiger now. So please take the wheel and do what you do best, baby. Having the confidence to know that it's not gone. It's still a part of me. I'm just prioritizing a different piece of who I am in the season that I'm in, right? And I hope that I don't have to use that protective part of me ever again, that one that's energized by fear and protects me. But if I do, then so be it. I know that I have the capability to do it. So.
Yeah, you can manage it. You can manage it, man. Well, thanks for your vulnerability and transparency on that. I appreciate it. Pivot real quick, because so you're in tech and there's just so many things happening. I mean, I can't keep up, and I'm in a tech company with all the things that are happening out there, so tell me, if I'm starting a company, if I've got a mid-level company, if I'm a leader of a team, like, hey, where do you see technology kind of going in the next few years? And like, how can people be preparing for those changes? And then like, what would you do to tell them to like, hey, this is how you would keep up, or what would you advise somebody to do? Because I just feel like tech is rapidly growing to the point where, hey, if I'm not at a massive corporation, how do I keep up with it?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we're in the middle of the whole AI thing, right? And it has all the indicators that it is here to stay, and it is the invention of the internet all over again, but it's going to move at a much faster pace than the internet moved, right? And the landscape that we'll live in 10 years from now is going to be vastly different than the landscape that we live in right now, right? So what I'm excited about on those things is that I think service-based companies will be able to scale to a level that they were not capable of scaling to before, because it required just so many people to scale an organization like that, right? So I think AI is going to help out to continue to scale service-based organizations to actually grow and become more profitable. So like, as the owner of an agency, I'm really excited about that, to see our team be able to grow without additional headcount and be able to make more money and, have a better quality of life, because, well, we got our AI robots kind of taking care of a lot of stuff for us, right? As far as like staying attached to, it really depends on your industry and what you're into, right? Like real estate, I get asked that all the time in the real estate industry. I'll have like a small size team and they're like, hey, like what tech stack should I invest in? I was thinking about X, Y, and Z and A and B and G. And I'm like, none of that. Like, just go, you got a Google Workspace account, right? Like, go get a spreadsheet out and just use that for a while, because like you're not doing enough business to complicate your complexity is introduced by the very nature of growth, right? Complexity happens. So as we're growing, we want to try to eliminate complexity as much as we can, because naturally it's going to happen, right? So I'm a really big believer that like the technology that you use, you don't even know how to make a decision if you don't have like all of your operating procedures written down with a pen and paper somewhere, because all we do when we pick technology is we go, cool, so this is our system, this is our way of doing things. Does that technology or that technology allow me to execute on that way of doing things at a higher or worse level within my scope of budget? Because that's an important thing as well, because like, yeah, there might be some software that does a much better job, but it's just completely out of the realm of possibility, because you shouldn't be stressed at night thinking about your tech stack, honestly, right? You should be stressed at night trying to figure out how to care for your clients and acquire more and care for your team. So that's like my simplistic way of looking at it is the AI, the softwares that you use, things like that, it's going to continue to roll out. I'm not worried about people being left behind, but I guess if you are worried about that, you can hit up Taylor and he can connect you guys to Bara Agency, because that's what we do day in and day out, I guess. So
yeah, let's chat with people and figure out. I mean, I think that's well said. Hey, if you don't have a standard operating procedure, and if you don't have good leadership structure, then it doesn't actually matter what you're going to do with tech.
Yeah.
You got to actually get those, the bones laid out, and then we can go, great, now we can help you scale or think about your business differently or more efficiently or get the right data in. But you got to have the bones first, which it is, a lot of people don't have that. So
yeah, and prioritizing somebody in your life that can like at least keep you attuned to all the AI stuff is going to be important. Like my analogy for that is like the CGI that rolled out for the movie industry, right? Like 50 years ago, it showed up in Westworld for the first time. It took 50 years to happen, but now like 80% of the movies have CGI in them, right? And we thought that it was going to get rid of filmmakers, but it did not get rid of filmmakers, actually. It actually allowed filmmakers to create movies that were never possible before. It created a new reality for creation. And but we know that the implementation of CGI is the difference between like crappy Lifetime movie and like Oscar award winning like blockbuster Avengers Endgame type movie, right? So AI will be the same thing. Like already it's the fastest adopted, ChatGPT is the fastest adopted software that's ever come across our planet. So when we look at things like that, it's definitely going to be implemented in all of our lives in some way, somehow, but your implementation of it will be the difference between Lifetime movie or blockbuster hit, right? So it's worth paying attention to, is what I'm saying.
it's good.
That's so good. Justin, as we land the plane here, I would love to kind of end on something that I think you've put in a lot of work to be able to answer, but it goes back to how you availed yourself to mentorship, to therapy, to coaching, to masterminds, to your own self education. But I'm curious, like, what so far in your career has been some of the most advice the most valuable advice you've received as a founder? So as the leader who's kind of the creator, the innovator, the starter, how would you kind of pay that piece of advice forward to our listener?
Yeah, it would be a combination of two things. So going back to the whole like paradox situation, ideas are a dime a dozen. Execution is what matters. So like
Yeah.
you found a company, you just had an idea and you did no more contribution. You're lucky if you get 2% of that pie, right? Ideas do not matter. It's your ability to execute on them and execute well at a very high level is which will be the indicator of your success and your reputation inside of your given industry, essentially. So like there's that first part, right? But then counterbalancing that with not operating out of fear and finding a way to get the people around you that are necessary to cultivate a operating out of inspiration to be able to help people out of love, out of kindness, out of generosity, out of these positive emotions is going to allow you to go further for longer than operating out of that fear-based thing, right? Because the fear-based thing, give it 2 years, you might build something awesome, but the wheels will come off the bus pretty quickly, So those would be like the two kind of best pieces of advice that I've distilled from coaches and leadership and mentors and therapists that I've had the pleasure and like blessing to have in my life and continue to have in my life. So
It's good, man.
That's good, man.
That's
Where do
good
people
stuff.
find you? What's the best way to get a hold of you, man, if our listeners want to understand what you're doing?
Yeah. Well, I'm like pretty crap at like posting anything relevant to what I do for work on social media. But like, if you want to follow me and my kids and my wife and I guess get to know me as a human, then
Get good memes.
Yeah,
you have good memes.
got a lot of good memes.
A+ on the meme game coming out of your
yeah, I just giggle at night, like scrolling my phone. My wife like makes fun of me because I'm just sitting over there in their bed, just giggling to myself, and then I just post the ones that I giggle the most to. So, at Justin Benson on Instagram, but on the Bara agency side of things, just baraagency.com if you're interested in exploring what technology could look like in a streamlined way in your organization, then you can get a hold of us at baraagency.com and book an initial consult there. And if you are in the real estate industry and you're interested in what I talked about at Shiloh, that would be Shiloh, SHILO, no H at the end, .ai is how you get there. And I guess we didn't really touch on the podcast, but that's fine. We do run a podcast called The Inspection Period. And you can find that by like going to YouTube and looking for estate media or searching for The Inspection Period. You'll see my face along with my other two co-hosts on the company.
Yeah, give us a quick rundown on that though. Like what's it all about? What topics do you guys cover? And
so we're taking primarily real estate related people right now, but we're going to have guests on that are not real estate related in the near future. But basically, we're taking this. I got a little tired of hearing. I don't know. Gary Ashton's a good friend of mine, and he is the #1 Remax brokerage on the entire planet and has been for a long time, right? But people put him on stage and they go, "All right, Gary, so like, what's working for you?" And he's like, I just bought all of the leads that Realtor.com offers in the entire city of Nashville. And that seems to be working
So
pretty
that works.
well for me, actually. Great. Like, how much does that cost? It's like 250 grand a month is like how much it costs to do that. Like, cool. So everybody else in the crowd's like, bravo, man. Like, way to go. I guess this is like the Gary is cool show or whatever. So my goal was to bring these big names on, and it was inspired by a podcast that I love called My First Million. But like, my goal was to bring them on and get to unravel their early days, like, you know, how they got to where they are, like how they made their first million in real estate, because that like bootstrappy wisdom and like the life that happens at that stage of building a business and young children and things like that, we get to expose a lot of wisdom that is more universal than, I guess, figure out how to get your hands on 250 grand a month and go call realtor.com. So
yeah,
I love that.
You can learn a lot more from that. Like, then just go buy it. Yeah, just go get a bunch of money and just go make it happen.
Yeah, this is like great, but it's not our CTO practical. Chris. It's his saying, "Oh, this sounds like a problem more money can solve." So
yeah, that's right. Yeah, just not quite the whole story, because the full picture is start there. So, dude, yeah, that's cool. Well, definitely all of that'll be in our show notes. Links to, you know, Bara agency, you know, of course, your podcast that you've got going on with the inspection period, Shiloh, all those good things. So, Justin, we really appreciate you, man. Thanks for taking the time to come on, giving us your wisdom, all the good things, for being vulnerable and transparent and all those kind of things, man. So,
dude, this is freaking awesome. You guys are doing a cool deal here. I learned a few things about being a podcast host. I'm a like kind of crap podcast host, to be honest. I'm still like trying to figure my way out on that side, but you guys asked really awesome questions, and I really loved it. It was intriguing because it made me think, you know, and it creates really cool conversations. So everybody listening to this, you guys are lucky to have these two kind of extracting that out of their guests, because that is a skill that is to be learned. So
yeah, we're all in that learning process, man. Podcast empire someday. Maybe we'll just sit and talk on the computer all day. Yeah. Well, for all of you Daily Leader fans out there, Brad, you got any parting words for them? Any deep words?
You know,
yeah, real
like,
deep, real
subscribe,
deep.
Keep your comments to yourself, share.
Yep.
Yeah. If it's not a nice comment,
stop asking for comments.
Yeah, just don't. So we love you guys. Thanks so much. Like, subscribe, share. We'll see you guys next time.